Today I'm making banana pudding, and so let's get started and I'll show you what I do to make a good, smooth, creamy, homemade banana pudding. Okay, I'm going to sit the camera down here and tilt this down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. The first thing I'm going to do is put some sugar. Now I've got about a cup of sugar here. Now a lot of people want more sugar in their banana pudding, but I think with the cookies and the bananas, it doesn't need so much sugar. So I decrease it from about a cup and a half down to a cup. And then I've got flour. Now I've got about 4 tablespoons of flour measured out here. And I don't know if you can see what I've got here. This is from the Rada company, and if you see close, you can see it's kind of sharpened on the end. If you don't have something like that, a good flat end spatula will work. But I'm going to just pour some of this flour in here, and I want it mixed really well with this sugar. Now you might be wondering, why in the world would I do that? Well, when you put milk or something wet into flour, it tends to clump. This is something sort of I guess a technique that I have used for years to keep my pudding smooth. Okay, so once I've got that, and you can see there, it's pretty smooth. You can't really tell what's sugar and what's flour anymore. So now I am going to get some milk poured. Should have already had this done, but it won't take but a minute. And I'm going to need 4 cups of milk in this. I'm going to start with 2 cups. Pour it in there and mix it all up so that I can break all of that up and start everything to dissolving. Now I'm going to turn my heat on to medium right now because I want this to heat slow. Banana pudding is not something you want to do real fast. This is something that's going to take a few minutes for it to thicken, and I'll try to keep that so you can see what I'm doing here. And so I'm going to let this begin to gradually warm up. And while that's doing that, I'm going to start to layer my vanilla wafers into this little pan that I've got here. So I'm going to get my vanilla wafers layered all the way through this little bowl. And then I'll start with some bananas. I'm going to get my little knife. I think I have a theme going here. This is my Rada knife. I like them a lot, but this one is a good small, and I just start and go over this whole pan and make sure I have a good layer of bananas all over those cookies. And you don't want to get bananas that are green to do this, because it'll make the pudding sort of bitter. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue to watch my pudding mixture. And here's what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to drop them right down in that box, and they will stir this a little bit and make sure we don't want anything sticking in the bottom. Nope, not yet. Let's go ahead and put the rest of the milk in it, or at least another cup of the milk. We'll try that first and get it started warming up. Right there. Now we're going to get another banana. I'm going to put probably 2 or 3 bananas over these cookies so that there's a good layer across there. All right, so I've got a good layer of banana there, and I can show you here. See, what I've done there is layered my cookies and then the bananas. And now let's see if this pan is beginning to warm and see if there's any. Okay, you can see there's a little bit of thickness on the bottom of it now. So it's time to start stirring this stuff. And you don't want to walk away from it because it can scorch really fast. And so you want to stay right with it and just let it slowly thicken. Now, kind of a rule of thumb that I use, if, like on this one, I had 4 cups of milk. So if I'm making something that's got 4 cups of milk, then I'm going to use 4 tablespoons of flour. Now, and another thing that you'll want to know is that the humidity level can affect this some. So if you ever have a time that you've started making something like this and it just for whatever reason will not get thick, then measure out a 1/2 cup of sugar and add flour to it, add you another tablespoon of flour to it, and then start working it in this with a whisk. But you can see this is getting a little thicker now. So we're just going to keep stirring it, and it's going to take a little bit, but it will get there eventually. This is getting there. You can see it's still a little bit liquid, but it's thickening. Of course, as it cools, it'll thicken a whole lot more too. And I have to let it cool just a little bit because it has to have eggs added to it. And if it's too hot, when the eggs go into it, it'll actually scramble the eggs. So we don't want that. And I'll show you how to do that so that you don't risk that as bad as you would otherwise. Okay, you can see there now how that's got the thick on the end of it. It's really getting thicker now. The whole pan is getting thicker. And I want it to get just a little bit thicker before I add the eggs. I have just a little bit of milk there I may want to add to it still. Oh yeah, that's good, getting good. Like I said, you don't want to walk away from this because it will thicken real fast if you just leave it. You don't want it to do that because if it thickens in the bottom and doesn't thicken in the top, then you risk having lumps again. Okay. I believe let's go ahead and add the rest of that milk to it now. I think it's going to need it. It's beginning to look like pudding. Now I'm getting my eggs so that I can show you how to do the pudding, how to put the egg mixture in it so that it does not clump up. And this is really getting creamier and creamier. Okay, I think this is ready to mix the eggs. Okay, so here I've got 2 egg yolks in a bowl. Now what I'm going to do is get a spoonful of this pudding and pour in the bowl and stir it around. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit more than that in it because I want it enough in it to start getting those eggs warm. And the way I can tell if they're warm enough, this is a pottery ceramic type bowl. And the bottom of the bowl is going to start to get a little warm with this warm pudding in it. And I may add enough pudding to get it over halfway full, so that egg mixture and the pudding mixture is it's mixed up real good. And you notice I'm getting most of that off of the bottom of there before I dip it back into my pan, because I don't want that, you know, in the pan yet. So you can see now, I can feel the bottom of my bowl is beginning to get warm. So I know it's almost done enough to mix in. And you can see this is still a little bit runny, but those eggs will help thicken it up some. Okay, I think it's ready. So I'm going to start now, and just 1 spoon at a time, and start just putting it through there. Before I do anything else, just go around the bottom of that, because it's still on that hot stove, even though I've turned it off. It's still hot down there. You can see it's beginning to get, I mean, it's still cooking on the bottom, so I don't want it to do that and maybe scorch. By the way, if you ever do have one that scorches, as soon as you realize that it's scorched, take it off of the stove, run you some cold water in your sink, and set the bottom of the pan down in that cold water, and it'll stop it from scorching any further. And then pour your pudding into a different pan and put it back on the stove. And of course you're going to have your pan to clean up later, but that'll keep you from getting that scorched part into your pudding. But it's getting there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and pour the rest of this in and get all of that into my pan. And then I'm going to turn my heat back on to medium, and I'm going to let this cook for a few more minutes. Actually, you should let it cook about 5 minutes since you put egg in it. And I can watch my watch and see how long it is. I have a good friend who she was a chef for Dollywood for a long time. She called me one day and she said, "Would you give me your banana pudding recipe?" I said, "I sure will." She said, "Dolly's coming and she wants some good southern banana pudding." So she made my banana pudding for Dolly Parton. Okay, it's just about there. Got just a couple more minutes on the heat, and then we can start adding it over the bananas, and we'll keep layering until it is completely done. Let me move the camera over here where you can see down in here. See how it's thickened up? And of course, like I said, as it cools, it's like a gravy. A gravy will get thicker as it cools, and this will do the same thing. But that is the way you make banana pudding. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off. I'll finish putting this together, and then I will post a picture on our page. And so we'll see you all again shortly.